Right, alright people, I just want to talk to you in relation to a post that was put up recently by one of the UC community, which relates to an armed home invasion just a couple of nights ago, and also an armed home invasion before the lockdown started. So somebody put up a post saying, is there any preparation that you can take and share with your family in order to prepare for potentially such situations? What, if anything, can you do to make some preparations in play that could potentially prevent such a situation from happening to you and yours? So it's quite a big subject, dealing with armed home invasion. So just recently I did the project Shit Hits the Fan Combatives, right? It was designed about, whilst we're in lockdown, imagine there was a period of momentary lawlessness where everything went fucking tits up and it became every man for himself for a short period of time. You know, the risk of an armed home invasion type thing would massively increase, and there would be a need to create some kind of mental shift in physical preparation if you want to have any fucking chance of prevailing in an event like that. That's what it was about. So it looked at the mindset needed, it looked at some unarmed skills, and it looked at primarily the use of weapons, because it would be a fucking lawless, all bets are off kind of situation, right? Outside of that, not looking at that, because thankfully we're not in that situation as yet anyway, but the law is still intact. That is still happening. Armed home invasion is still happening. So there's miscreants out there that are taking not only advantage of the fact that the police response times are thinned out right now, but that nobody around, there's not likely to be any fucking repercussions in an immediate sense, and are invading people's occupied homes, which is so blatant because everybody's home, including the type of, the people that are highly probable likely to fight back, brothers, uncles, dads, etc., sons. So it's blatant as fuck. So they're going in multiple groups armed with the absolute intent of your demise. The only thing that I could say in the situation I'm going to talk to you about was the fact that 4 of them were masked, which indicated to me that they didn't want to be recognised. Right, that's a potentially a good sign, because that indicates that they didn't necessarily intend to at least end the people that were there, but they did harm them. So a little boy with 11 years old was shot, a guy was fighting back, was kicked in the face, got his nose broke, he also got slashed on the head, a woman was held at knife point with a Stanley knife. They know fucking business. And the other one that I talk about as well, was absolutely horrendous, as you'll see. So these people were intent on killing. So there's cunts out there capitalising on that, the fact that we're in lockdown, and if they're that fucking blatant and crazy enough to come through, well, they're crazy enough to kill you, aren't they? So this prompted what, if anything, can we do to a armed home invasion, right? And it's a very, very fucking difficult subject. It equals potentially the difficultness of dealing with an active threat. Somebody that's gone actively crazy in an immediate area, whether out of an act of fucking defiance to human nature or just an act of terrorism, is trying to chop everybody up. Worse if that's a active shooter and they've got firearms, which increasingly we're seeing, and even this situation here included a gun. So it's on equal footing in terms of danger and fucking making you absolutely fearful to that scale. But the worst, it's not getting much worse than that. Multiple armed assailants potentially going to kill you. What, if anything, can we do? What can we do, let alone the layman, right? So my research into this subject comes from a variety of sources, those I consider to be worth listening to within the field of personal security. And they indicate that there are a multitude of actions that can diminish your risk of injury, or worse, right? The overriding factor lies in preparation. So of course the old saying goes, people don't plan to fail, they just fail to plan. There's a need to plan if you're going to have any chance of dealing with that situation during the time of lockdown. During the time of lockdown is, if it's going to, God forbid, happen, the best chance for it to happen, because you're all you're there. As the man of the house, you're there. You've got an opportunity to do something. God forbid such a situation if somebody at least capable of willing to stand up was not present. You know, but the situation's got to be addressed, and I'm addressing it first from the perspective that I'm home, right? But we look at other things also. But the chance of dealing with such a thing comes from planning, right? The last thing you want to do is try to react during a crisis whilst your adrenaline is escalating to such levels that you're no longer going to remain cognitive in brain any much longer. So you won't be able to make a decision. That is not the time to try and put it together. The time for planning is long before such an event. That is the whole point of planning, right? Now, there is a chance, if you plan, that instinct will take over amidst such uncertainty. There's also a chance that you'll suffer a state of complete hypervigilance. But unless you prepare and give an option in your subconscious brain to some kind of response to that stimuli, everybody's potentially lost. So you've got to prep, you've got to be willing, right? Understand that lots of variables come into this. If the fucker just wants to get paid and get out of my house, then I'm going to give up what I've got. I'm not going to risk anybody. What I was talking about, particularly when I did the shit hits the fan type of combative skills or idea or theme, was if such a home invasion happened at that point, there are no fucking police coming. And these miscreants know it, and as far as these miscreants would be concerned is, there's no fucking consequences. Not that they give a fuck about them anyway. So they can basically do what they want, including, you know, ending you. That's why it's got to be an all bets are off situation. In that situation, you've got to be willing to fucking end them. But if such a situation came about now, where it's just some fucking opportunist trying to rob something, there's still the equal opportunity that your demise could be met, or of somebody you love. But if it's, you know, a case of money or valuables, then give your shit up. But if we were in a situation where, you know, shit had met the fan and we were momentarily lawless, then the most important commodity of all was going to be whatever food, water and stores you have. You know, for those of you that prep on a regular basis, it would go much more in depth. But it begins with, of course, your food and your water supply for you and your family. If somebody is ever coming through the door for that, you've got to prevent it, because them taking it is just killing you slower. So you would have to end them. That was the situation that I was talking about and writing about when I made the combative skills book for preppers, and when I done the shit hits the fan combative skills. What would be the bare minimum that you'd need in such conditions? What we're talking about right now, we are supposedly lawful still, but this situation is still happening, and what can we do, right? Here's a fact. Long before any such fucking miscreant decides to commit such a vile endeavour as armed home invasion, they will have gone through the process of planning. They will have mentally prepared and rehearsed the criminal act out in their heads a number of times, equating for a number of variables. So they would have thought about it. There'd have been some planning involved. What this means to any unprepared victim of home invasion is the moment they enter your dwelling, they have already placed themselves several steps ahead of you in terms of you responding, because of that said preparation. They will have immediately proven their preparation and willingness to employ a savage level of violence due to the fact that they are armed. They will have most likely mentally rehearsed in their brain their attack in a physical sense, what they're going to do when they need to do it, supported by the high probability that most criminals' experience of using violence comes from actually doing it before. So you need to ask yourself, how experienced are you in that area? How experienced and how fucking mentally willing are you to deliver a savage level of violence in a blink to prevent it being done to you? Because these things, these entities are capable of that, right? Such ilk will have weighed up the consequences of their actions and will have balanced the scale in favour of their criminal act long before the manifestation of the event. Think about that for a sec. Imagine that, how much easier that would be for them during a potential period of lawlessness where basically no consequences exist. If they are crazy enough to break in your house, this is the assumption you have to make. If they are crazy enough to break in your house while occupied, particularly during a period of lockdown, then they're crazy enough to rob, rape or fucking kill you. So the two case examples that I'm going to give you that will make you potentially realise that what I've just said is a plausibility come from two posts that were, one initial post that was posted which prompted this response, and another post that was posted since. The one that went up just a couple of nights ago, Upminster last night. Somebody just got this and it's all over the news. A guy from golf just sent me this. This is the worst year of my life. My daughter and son-in-law were robbed at knife point 10 PM last night by 4 masked cunts. My grandson was shot in the shoulder and is now in London having an operation this afternoon. My daughter had a Stanley knife at her throat and was threatened with her life. My son-in-law got kicked in the head and has a broken nose, slashed, and was also slashed in the head and has stitches. And now we can't even see them because of this fucking virus. What a year. Oh yeah, damn straight. Bad situation. And then there's a click on it. And the click on the link goes right into the case. Have a look. It's on the UC Group community page. Right? This one defies imagination, it really does, right? £3,000 reward. Now this happened in 23rd of January 2020, so before the lockdown. To anyone who can anonymously give evidence that leads to a conviction on the attack that happened to myself on the 23rd. All messages confidential. Right, almost 7 weeks ago, I awoke to noises in my house. I was confronted by 3 armed men. They were armed with a machete, a butcher's knife and a hammer. The man with the machete was coming up the stairs towards me and I was able to restrain him until the man with the hammer hit me in the head countless times and I had to release my grip. Well, obviously, the first thing that's wrong with that is, you know, the guy's uninformed, he's untrained, he's never thought about it, he's never thought about what would I have to do in such a situation. So he did an instinctual thing because there was no data on in the subconscious brain for him other than grab hold of the arm and stop this immediate threat, which obviously is not the thing to do in a case of multiple armed assailants. You know, had he potentially got some intel and potentially armed himself with a hammer, let's say, and used the stairs to his advantage if they're coming up and literally threw some heavy down there on top of all of them to give him a stall and then smash the first fucker in the head with the hammer. Now he's got a fucking chance, right, other than what's just happened to him. But no, he was unarmed, and in his desperation to try and grab the knife, he got beat with a hammer and so on and so on, right? How the guy's alive is amazing, and there is a couple of pictures of him if you see. It's horrendous. This was the day of the month that Skinny Pigs franchises, which is obviously something that he's involved in, handed in their take-ins and was a targeted attempt at stealing this. So he obviously run this little organisation and they thought we had the money. They tortured me in an attempt to give up where the money was, but Skinny Pig's money, it was always banked immediately and never sits in anyone's house. They tried to cut off my toes with a machete, but in moving my feet and my legs, they were hacked to the bone in multiple places. They then smashed me in the nose with the hammer, breaking it and fracturing it, and hit me so many times on top of the head. The flesh was away and down to the skull in multiple places. They attempted to hit me in the head a few more times with the machete, and I took several shots to my arms and hands, severing 3 fingers to the bone, requiring tendon and ligaments to be reattached. After this, I kept telling them I had no money in the house. They attempted to stab me in the heart, but I was able to wrestle the blade out before it went right through. They then put the knife to my throat, demanding. Now I'm surprised the guy can relate all of this word for word like that, but you know, whether he would have been cognitive enough to remember all that, but he certainly was in a bad way and in a bad threatening situation. I mean, they put him through it, right? They put the knife to my throat, demanding I tell them where the money was. At this point I asked him to wait until I could think, and then I remembered my dad had lent me, borrowed some money. Then I remembered I'd borrowed from my poorly dad some money to go towards a mortgage deposit. Upon taking this £4,000, they hit me in the head with the hammer until the blood spray almost covered the living room wall, and then left me for dead. So they still tried to fucking kill him after he'd give up £4,000. I managed to get upstairs to grab my phone, call the police. I didn't know that listen to this bit. I didn't know that all my ligaments were all cut and couldn't type. With all the blood on the screen, you wouldn't recognise the presses, and it kept falling into puddles of blood. Jesus Christ, I mean, look, it's just ridiculous. And then there's a couple of pictures that you can see, you know, this poor guy's face and what he went through. So home armed invasion is seeming more and more of a thing. So I think we need to pay attention. And I think you need to be able to pay attention, and I think you need to see what, if anything, can we do, and how can we formulate some kind of plan. This opening introduction is designed to help you get over the first hurdle in your plan of action. That being to inform you on enough of a level that this is happening. There is indeed a need to formulate a plan. So what I mean by that is the first challenge that you're going to be faced with if you formulate a plan, because any plan of dealing with anything inside of your home where there's more than one person, whether it's a fire drill, in this case a home invasion plan, counter plan, then everybody in your household has to be involved. Everybody has to be willing and involved in taking it seriously, and that is your first hurdle. First challenge faced will be to get everyone within your household to take it fucking seriously. So what that means is, in order for you to take something seriously, I need to create the need for you to listen. I need to create the need for you to learn. Well, if those two examples of what I've just given you haven't created the need to learn, then I don't know what will, and I can't fucking help you. So, but basically I think there's a need to pay attention, right? In my opinion, such a plan should be divided into 4 important sections. So the first section of any potential plan of dealing with a home invasion relates to the acknowledgement that there is a fucking need, right? Let's say we got that one out of the way. Second, apply an emotional shift to your physical planning. You need to prepare for the fucking worst and hope for the best. Now visualise going through this plan, which must include worst case scenario, right up to the point of view where worst case scenario you have to take a life to save a life. Right? You've got to look at the event in its plausible worst. Yeah, armed home invasion could easily equate to death, easily. In which case, in order for you to prevent that from happening, there may be a situation arise where you have to take life in order to save life. Now, it could be a simple situation in such where, like I just said, you know, if I give up the money, you know, just take what you want, they'll fuck off and leave you alone. There's a good chance they won't. So you may need to fight, and if you've got to fight, you've got to fight, be willing to fight, so there's nothing left to fucking fight about, right, which will come. Apply an emotional shift to your physical planning. That's what's needed, right? Third, fortify your homes. Home security, early warning methods, weapon availability, safe room, escape routes, etc. Right, that would be the crux of your plan. And fourth would be fighting back. You know, where you have to stand your ground and fight back, being literally willing to fight till there's nothing left to fight about. If you are willing to accept that in such a situation to deal with a harmed home invasion, that all of those 4 boxes would need to be ticked, you know, then you might get something out of this. Yeah. So once again, first, acknowledge there's a need. Second, you need to apply an emotional shift that needs to prepare you to deliver violence in its worst form. Potentially, you have to get your head on that. You know. Third, fortify your home, do what you can do in terms of security, put a weapon in every room, etc. Formulate a safe room, blah blah blah, what we will come to. Fourth, fighting back so there's nothing left to fight about. They're the elements that you need to cover if you wanted to talk about dealing with a home invasion. One very important tool would always be situational awareness. I've already said that the kind of ilk that carry out these kind of crimes will be a lot more prepared to carry out such an event than you might be right now to deal with such an event. Such ilk will have done a thorough recce of your location, entry points, potential choke points of your house, street or apartment structure. They will have all been scrutinised. All anyone's got to do these days is use Google Earth, and you can see entry and exit points to where you live in your dwelling. You know, so if they look up the road and think, oh, that one looks good, all they've got to do is that. And that's just one way. I mean, a physical recce will most certainly be another. A person has already said on here on this post, on the post that prompted this, this chat, this talk. Someone I know said some lads were checking his doors the other night, checking to see if they were open. Now, of course, there's got to be a fair share of opportunities. So somebody trying a door sounds like an opportunity to me, but there'll also be others out there that will employ planning. But any opportunist that's armed, come out for that, with that intention to do that, actually gets in and meets you, you're going to have a potential problem, aren't you? They're going to hurt you and yours, so you've got to learn how to do something about it. The fact that they are willing to break in your house says a lot about their mental preparation to cause harm. How's yours looking in terms of response right now? So situational awareness simply says to you, when you're out and about, keep an eye out for anyone that has no fucking reason to be hanging about. What we call no cover for status. Have you seen anyone like that? Have you seen anyone looking down the street, looking at a house, looking at the camera angle, you know, etc, etc? Something doing a recce, would you have even noticed? If not, why not? So start to notice, and mention the people in your neighbourhood. Say something like along the lines of, you know, what's going on. Show them the case reports. In fact, I'm sure where those have happened, people have done that. And now start keeping a more vigilant eye out. Like, you know, nothing wrong with neighbourhood watch. It's proved fruitful many times, you know. But even if there's no fucking neighbourhood watch where you are, even if they're where you live in an apartment, there's no one fucking talks to anyone else or whatever else, you are your own security. So do your own. You might just start to notice if you see anything out of the ordinary. Like I said, someone with no cover for status. If you saw something like that early and ahead of the game, that's what it's all about. That's how you stay left of bang, right? Okay. So let's say you've realised there is a very real threat along with the need to prepare for it. First box ticked, right? The second factor is our plan, along with the cultivation of the emotional willingness to see all elements of it through until the end, no matter what. Part of this plan starts with the third factor, fortifying your home and home security, which is what we're going to talk about next. I'm going to just break this down into a couple of digestible parts rather than you just listen to me ramble on. So that's what we're going to be looking at in the next part.